guys, I really like learning about new things. I mean, it's great. You get a fresher outlook on your life. So today I'm giving you 5 documentary tips. So I'm like most people. I love watching Netflix, and one of my favorite genres would be the documentaries. I just love learning about subjects that you did not have any clue about, and I just find that video form or film form helps me learn so much easier. And so I had this one week at the beginning of December where I just went documentary crazy, and I figured I would compile those documentaries and figure out which ones I liked the most and present them to you guys. A little disclaimer before we start this, I actually do live in Sweden. So I have Swedish Netflix, and that means that some of the documentaries might not be available where you watch Netflix. But I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that what's available on my Netflix should probably be available in yours, because Sweden. And if they're not available, then I guess you could just use your Google Master skills and you'll probably find them anyway. So let's head on to the documentaries. The first documentary that I would like to present to you is the Netflix original Winter on Fire, and it's about the conflict in Ukraine during the end of 2013 and the beginning of 2014, in which some student protests led to a revolution. What I think is great about this documentary is that it's beautifully shot. They're right there smack dab in the middle of the action, and they actually managed to capture really what's going on in the essence of the moment. Now, everything that happened in Ukraine at that time was heavily featured on the news here in Sweden, so I actually heard a lot about it at the time, but after watching this, I realized just how little I knew about the situation. I was not aware just how violent the police actually treated the citizens, and just like shooting them down and hitting them and just killing their own people is just horrifying to me. So I actually learned a lot from watching this documentary about a conflict that I was aware of but not fully aware of, if you get what I'm saying. This documentary is also nominated for an Oscar, I believe, so you should definitely check it out if you're like me and want to check out all of the Oscar nominations. The second documentary that I would like to talk about today is about Scientology and the Church of Scientology, to be exact, and it's called Going Clear: Scientology and the Prison of Belief. Now, before watching this, I did not actually know a lot about Scientology. That's why it initially sparked my interest, and you really do find out a lot from watching this. The only thing that I actually did know was the crazy science fiction-like creation story that they believe in, and for me that was really difficult to grasp how someone could buy into that just straight from the start. But what I learned during this documentary is that that's not actually the case. There's a whole lot more to it, and I think that this presents a broader picture of something that we tend to look at very critically with a rather narrow perspective. The documentary mentions Scientology's relationship to its founder, to its members, to the media, to the celebrities, and also to the members wanting to leave, because this documentary is actually composed of a series of interviews with past members who decided to leave the church, and we get to see what they've experienced and what their story is. Apparently this film is actually based off of a book, so if you're into reading but not so much into watching films, then that might be the option for you if you're really interested in Scientology. Third documentary I watch is We Are Legion, which is actually about the hacktivist group Anonymous. Now, this was pretty much the same for me. I watched it because I had no idea really what Anonymous stems from and where they comes from and really what they do. I hear about them on the news sometimes, but to be quite honest, I do not know anything of them from like a broader perspective, so I decided to watch this documentary and I did not regret it. This documentary as well features interviews with current and past members. You get to see how the group started at 4chan and then how it develops throughout the years until the current time, which is actually 2012 when this documentary is made. If you want to watch 2 documentaries together, I would suggest watching this one in contrast to the Scientology one, mainly because In the We Are Legion documentary, they talk about anonymous big conflict that they had with the Church of Scientology, and that I found really interesting to find out more about the context. After watching the Scientology documentary, I could actually understand the context of the conflict, and it made it a lot more easy to understand. So that is something that I do recommend. Now moving on to the fourth documentary, and this one is called Last, and then in between those little things that I can't think of the word in English, Power. I will just put it up on the screen for you. When I first started watching this, I was not aware of what it was going to be because I did not read the documentary description. For some reason I thought it was a biography sort of Vladimir Putin. It was not, because it is not about Putin. It does showcase a lot of his power though, so to say that it's not at all about Vladimir Putin is probably wrong. But the main character is, I'm gonna have to read this name because I don't know how to say it. I'm probably gonna butcher it anyway, but yeah. The focus lies on Mikhail Borisovich Khodorkovsky. Well, whatever. If you're Russian, then please correct me down below because I don't know how to say it. But you might also have heard about the person. I'll just write the name down here. He's a very interesting man. He was an oligarch and a businessman in Russia. When Putin comes to power, a lot of things happen and he's actually forced to exile. And so you get to follow that trip, see the reasons behind that, and hear some interesting thoughts on it about people who are very passionate about Russia, and it's just a really, really interesting documentary. So I definitely recommend this one. And now we're finally arrived at the last documentary. Now this one I did not actually watch during December because I watched it like last week. But I wanted to talk about it because I do find this one a really interesting documentary. This is also a Netflix original and it's called Hot Girls Want It. I clicked onto this one mainly because Rashida Jones was the producer. And if you know who Rashida Jones is, you know that she's in Parks and Recreation, and I do love that show and I do love her as a person and as an actor and as everything. So I wanted to check this out. It's about the porn industry, and it's about the amateur porn industry to be exact. And it tells the story of these girls just simply replying to an ad on Craigslist telling them that hot girls are wanted, but they're not quite sure actually what they're getting themselves into. Some might have been aware of what kind of ad it was, but there was this one girl in the documentary that actually says I wasn't sure what I had signed myself up to until I was on the plane there. This documentary depicts their struggle as they're going through their first couple of months in the amateur porn business, and most people don't really make it after their first couple of months, but they show how these girls sometimes degrade themselves when they do not want to. Most of these girls were around the ages of 18 to 19, and they just were sort of looking for a way to provide for themselves and get out of their towns and things like that. They wanted an easy way out, and they think that porn might be the way to do it. I'm not saying that some of the girls might not have enjoyed the work, because I'm sure that some of them did, but the ones that we get to follow the most do seem rather unhappy, and they talk about the business as if it's really not that good for them. I do find this very interesting if you contrast it to society today. Pornhub just released their annual statistics for 2015 recently, and you can see there that one of the most searched words are teen, and that is basically what these girls were doing. And I think it showcases an industry where we actually need to put down a foot and say that anyone who's working in porn should actually have the rights they deserve. As a girl, you shouldn't go into a business and have to feel used and have to feel like you don't know if you can say no to certain things. And it's just like, I was really touched watching this, and I was also really horrified at certain parts. But I do think that it's very, very seaworthy, so that's why I included it. So that was actually all the tips that I wanted to give you this evening. Is there any one of them that you find interesting? Please comment down below, we can discuss it and we can have a great conversation. If you have any documentary tips for me, then I'll gladly take them because I love documentaries. I love them so much, in fact, that I'm probably gonna go watch one now. If you enjoy the documentary tips, then please don't forget to hit that like button, and don't forget to comment and subscribe, because that will really help me out this year, because I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers. It's going pretty well so far. I love you all. Thank you for watching. Bye!